I set her phone down carefully, my pulse hammering in my ears. My fingers curled into fists as I struggled to breathe, my world tilting dangerously. The woman I had built my life around, the one I had trusted beyond reason, had reduced our marriage to a sordid joke. For a long moment, I just stood there, staring at the innocuous device resting on the nightstand, its screen now dark and silent. 1,000 questions fought for dominance in my mind, but one burned brighter than the rest. How long? How long had she been sneaking around behind my back? How many times had she slipped into another man's bed, wearing the same smile she reserved for me? How often had she told me she loved me while thinking of him? Footsteps padded behind me. I turned as Emily stepped out of the bathroom, steam billowing around her. A towel was wrapped loosely around her body, droplets of water glistening on her skin. She smiled at me. My wife smiled at me, as if nothing had changed, as if she hadn't been exchanging filthy texts with another man just moments ago. "Hey, babe," she said, tilting her head. "What are you doing?" I forced my expression to remain neutral. "Nothing. Just thinking." She crossed the room, pressing her damp body against me, her arms sliding around my neck. Her scent, lavender and vanilla, filled my senses, but instead of the usual warmth, I felt only revulsion. "You're always thinking," she teased, pressing. A kiss to my jaw. "You work too hard. Maybe you need a break." I almost laughed. A break? That's exactly what she had given herself, with Jason. I clenched my jaw, forcing the bile back down. If I reacted now, if I let my anger explode, she'd deny it, twist it, make me the paranoid husband imagining things. No, I couldn't let that happen. If she wanted to play games, then I would play too. Her fingers traced down my chest, lingering at the hem of my shirt. "You're tense," she murmured. "Maybe I can help with that." Disgust twisted in my gut. How many times had she done this with him? Used these same hands, these same lips, whispered these same words? My body went rigid beneath her touch, but I forced myself to smile. "Maybe later," I said, stepping back. "I need to finish some work." A flicker of something crossed her face. Disappointment? Annoyance? Was she already thinking of him? Already planning her next rendezvous? She shrugged, feigning nonchalance. "All right, don't stay up too late." I nodded, watching as she slipped, under the covers, curling up like the devoted wife she pretended to be. I turned away, walking into my office, but sleep was the last thing on my mind. Instead, I opened my laptop, searching for a private investigator. If she thought she could make a fool out of me, she had no idea who she was dealing with. She had betrayed me. Now it was my turn to rewrite the rules. The investigator wasted no time. By the next morning, I had my first real glimpse into the double life Emily had been living. A discreetly placed tracker on her car, access to her credit card transactions, and surveillance outside her office. All small steps toward uncovering the full extent of her betrayal. Days passed, each one filled with new revelations. She wasn't just cheating, she was thriving in the deception. Lunches that were supposed to be with coworkers were intimate meetings at secluded restaurants. Late nights at the office were actually spent in hotel rooms booked under Jason's name. She even had the audacity to use the same affectionate words with him that she once used with me. Every detail fueled my rage, but I kept my mask intact. I greeted her with a smile when she came home, listened to her excuses about long work hours, even played along when she kissed me. The hardest part wasn't pretending. It was resisting the urge to confront her, to scream in her face and ask her why. But I already knew the answer. It wasn't about love. It wasn't about me. It was about thrill. She had grown bored of stability, of a husband who worked hard to give her a good life. She craved excitement, the rush of sneaking around, the danger of almost getting caught. And that was the biggest insult of all. So I planned. Not just any plan, but a calculated one. A crushing one. A plan that would leave her standing, in the ruins of everything she took for granted. Emily had unknowingly handed me the perfect opportunity. Her business trip. It was a weekend getaway, one she had carefully fabricated, slipping brochures into casual conversation so I wouldn't question her sudden absence. She even went the extra mile pretending to be stressed about meetings that didn't exist. She must have thought she was a mastermind, playing her game so effortlessly, but she had no idea that I had already booked my own flight. On the morning of her departure, she kissed me at the door, suitcase in hand, eyes gleaming with anticipation. "I'll miss you," she said, the words a mockery now. I forced a sad smile. "Me too. Be safe." She turned and walked away, completely oblivious to the storm she'd just set into motion. I waited exactly 1 hour before heading to the airport myself. The investigator had already forwarded me the details: her hotel, her room number, their dinner reservations. I knew exactly where she would be and when. By the time I landed, I was a man on a mission. My first stop wasn't the hotel. No, I needed something first: undeniable proof. With a well-placed bribe, I had access to their room's security footage. And there it was, Emily and Jason, walking in together, hands all over each other, lips locked in a passionate kiss. I watched, stone-faced, as she dropped her bag, allowing him to peel away her coat. They laughed, completely unbothered by the world outside those walls. A memory struck me then. Our honeymoon. The way she had once looked at me with that same hunger, that same excitement. Now, that gaze belonged to him. I inhaled sharply, pushing the thought away. This wasn't the time for emotions. This was war. Slipping the footage onto a USB drive, I made my way to the hotel across the street, the perfect vantage point. The investigator was already there, waiting, camera in hand, ready to capture everything. Night fell, and their so-called business trip turned into a lover's retreat. They dined at a 5-star restaurant, laughing, touching, oblivious to the fact that every moment was being recorded. Then, hand in hand, they strolled back to the hotel, disappearing into their room once more. The final nail in the coffin. Satisfied, I returned to my own room and made a few calls. The guest list for the upcoming event at our home, family, friends, close colleagues, would be expanded. This wasn't just about ending our marriage. This was about exposing her for what she was. I wasn't going to let her destroy me in the shadows. I was going to burn her entire facade to the ground. The night of the gathering arrived, a perfect backdrop for what I had meticulously planned. Emily had no idea that this wasn't just a dinner with close friends. It was her reckoning. She dressed beautifully, her favorite blue dress clinging to her curves in a way she knew I once admired. She kissed my cheek before the guests arrived, playing the role of the loving wife. The sheer audacity of her action sent a surge of disgust through me, but I remained calm. Guests trickled in, our friends, her parents, my colleagues. Laughter filled the air, glasses clinked in celebration of nothing in particular. Emily basked in the warmth of it all, oblivious to the storm that was about to consume her. Then the moment arrived. I cleared my throat, standing at the center of the room. Conversations died down. All eyes turned toward me. Emily, holding a wine glass, smiled curiously. "I just want to thank everyone for coming tonight," I began, my voice steady. "And of course, I want to express my love for my wonderful wife, Emily." She beamed, unaware of the venom laced in my words. "Marriage is built on trust," I continued, "on loyalty, on the belief that the person you share your life with will always be honest with you." Emily shifted slightly, sensing something was off. Her smile faltered. "But trust is a fragile thing," I added, reaching for the remote on the coffee table. "Once broken, it can never be the same." I pressed the button. The television screen behind me flickered to life. And then chaos erupted. The footage played. Grainy, yet unmistakable. Emily and Jason wrapped in each other's arms, lips locked in passionate betrayal. Gasps filled the room. Someone muttered, "Oh my God!" Emily went rigid, her wine glass slipping from her grasp, shattering against the hardwood floor. Her mother paled, eyes darting between the screen and her daughter. Jason's name echoed in whispers among the crowd. Emily turned to me, face ashen. "I can explain." I raised a hand, cutting her off. "Explain what? That you've been lying for months? That while I was working late, trying to give us a good life, you were sneaking around with him?" My voice remained cold, unwavering. Tears welled in her eyes. "Please, not here, not like this." I pulled a thick envelope from my pocket and tossed it onto the table. "Divorce papers." Her breath hitched. "No, you don't mean this." I stepped closer, lowering my voice so only she could hear. "I do. You threw away everything we had for cheap thrills. Now you get to live with the consequences." The room remained eerily silent, everyone watching the scene unfold. Emily's father shook his head in disappointment. Her mother covered her mouth, tears forming. Jason, the coward, was nowhere to be found. The moment his face appeared on that screen, he had slipped out the back like a guilty rat abandoning a sinking ship. Emily collapsed into a chair, sobbing. "Please, we can fix this." I exhaled, shaking my head. "You already destroyed it." I turned, away, walking toward the door. My heart should have felt heavy, but instead, it was lighter than ever. Emily had lost everything in a single night. And I was finally free. The aftermath of that night was nothing short of catastrophic. For Emily, at least. The moment I walked out of that room, I left behind everything that had once tied me to her. I didn't look back, didn't stop to check if she was still sobbing, didn't care how much damage she had suffered. The pain she felt was earned. By the next morning, my phone was flooded with calls and messages, none of which I answered. Emily had left dozens of voicemails, each more desperate than the last. The first few were angry, full of denial and blame. "You humiliated me. How could you do that in front of everyone?" Then came the bargaining. "Please, let's talk. We can. Fix this. You still love me, I know you do." Finally, the despair. "I made a mistake. Just tell me what to do. I'll do anything. Please don't leave me like this." But she didn't get it. She had already left me the moment she let Jason touch her. I ignored every message. I had no obligation to soothe her guilt. Instead, I focused on my future, because for the first time in years, I had one that wasn't built around a lie. Divorce proceedings moved quickly. With the evidence I had, there was no contest. She lost everything: the house, the cars, the life she had taken for granted. Jason, the man she threw it all away for, he vanished. Once the scandal became public, he cut ties and left her to drown, in the wreckage alone. A fitting end for a traitor. Months passed, and the wounds she left behind became scars, reminders but not burdens. I rebuilt, rediscovered who I was without the weight of her betrayal dragging me down. One evening, as I sat in a quiet cafe, enjoying the simplicity of a peaceful life, my phone vibrated. A new message from an unknown number. "Emily, I miss you. I was stupid. Please, can we meet?" A mirthless chuckle escaped me. She was still clinging to the past, still hoping for salvation. But I had moved on. I deleted the message without a second thought. Because the best revenge wasn't ruining her. It was leaving her behind, forever.